Hi, beloveds. I have my Rise Up Lovingly t shirt on, and we are rising up. I think, a lot of light is shining on what's going on in our world, the inequalities, the injustice, and we're in this dynamic time of change. And to kind of ride that wave and flow with it, and also help to direct that in our Reiki clinic, where we're now doing virtually distance healing. Our theme for reflection before we send out energy to people around healing is about our internalized racism. So, my given is that we're all racist and we're in recovery because we've grown up in environments anywhere in the world where racism it filters in, and certainly in our history, and the United States is filled with that. So that's just a given. It's kind of like any addict has to start with, I am this, and how do I get to this path of recovery? How do I move through and work with myself in the internalized things? And that's the beauty of the work that we do in Reiki. So Reiki, Usui, who brought Reiki into and re-brought Reiki back into the world around World War II, was a Japanese man, and he saw all these symbols that he understood to empower us to bring more healing energy. One of those symbols is about just bringing physical healing. One of those symbols is about bringing emotional and a mental healing. And for us, most of our stories about racism kind of fall into that second category of, in our bodies, what we call body stories. In our bodies are all these stories about how we've experienced the other, someone different than ourselves. And for many of us who've done healing work or even been in all the movements for social justice, we've done a lot of work on ourselves, but it doesn't mean that there aren't some traces of things to open up our hearts more fully to love ourselves in the world and be a part of this movement of healing that's taking place. So we're going to use the Reiki symbols of Seiheki and the Reiki symbol of sending distance healing to two different things. And if you're coming on the call, think about kind of prepping yourself a little bit about, where am I about racism? And who are the people in my life that are different than me, and do they exist? Have I welcomed them in? And then thinking also about your ancestors. So I tell this story about one of my ancestors who was in the Revolutionary War, and came from Austria. So my heritage speaks to that, and my hunch is from the little bit of glimpses of material that I have about this particular ancestor, is they probably was a racist man. So, I don't want to carry any of his burden, his confusion, his prejudice, his fear of other, while I'm trying to actually be more love myself. So how can I set myself free, and while blessing him on his journey and whatever his path has taken since he's died? So there are lots of fun and playful ways for us to think about how can we actually use healing energy to help ourselves heal more fully of our own racism and be more fully in recovery from racism. So it's going to be a juicy, fun, and maybe a really provocative call together, where we all get to check in and just kind of take a moment and see where we're at about what's happening in the world. It's a beautiful time to live, and we've chosen to live in this time, so let's make the most of it. Okay, namaste.